So welcome to our council meeting. I'm Jamie Ross, the mayor of the village of Belcarra, and I would wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Tumtumay-Waiton, or Belcarra, is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We are thankful to conduct our work within their territory. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:03, and we're looking at approval of the agenda. Item 2.1, so I'll look for a motion from council. Councillor Clark.
Second.
Oh, sorry, who moved it?
Wilder.
Councillor Wilder.
Wilder, and then Clark seconding. Thank you very much. And any discussion from council on that? I'm not seeing any, so I will look at the agenda for the regular council meeting, October 25th, 2021, be approved as circulated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I see it carries in the affirmative. So thank you. And moving on to the adoption of the minutes. Lorna, I'm going to ask Councillor Snell to just chair a brief part of this because I would like to make an amendment to a part that happened. Is that so? Councillor Snell, can you just chair this part as I make an amendment?
Certainly.
So it'd be the adoption of the regular council meeting. And I would like to move an amendment that under the part where I recuse myself, that there's a phrase "as a director" that needs to be added, and I've given the wording to Paula prior. So it would just insert in it the so let me just locate that piece. So it reads right now, and I'll just noting that he was not entitled to participate in the discussion of the matter or to vote on the matter because of a direct pecuniary interest in the matter as a director and a member of the Group Wharf Association. So it would look to add the words "as a director" and. So I'll look for a seconder on that.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second.
John, you take over. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So we've amended the minutes, presumably of the October the 12th, in accordance with the last conversation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Call for discussion and then a vote.
Okay, so are we in favor of receiving those? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Okay.
aye.
Okay, so that I see is carried. We are now moving to the to accept the minutes of.
Oh, I just one moment, councillors. Now, I had a question about the October 12th. So we passed the amendment, but I just had a question to staff, if I may, on the October 12 minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So through the chair to Lorna. So on the part that was amended about the parking, I'm not sure how to go about this, but when you read these minutes, it looks like council amended a motion from previous meetings. But the case here is that my motion was to correct a mistake when the minutes was written, which is I just wanted to highlight that that's not what council passed during that meeting. So I'm just not sure why there's no notes about it, because again, the way when I look and I read this, it just looks like council changed their minds, in the next meeting and amended the minutes. And there's nowhere here that has a note that's saying that this happened because the minutes were wrong.
Well, it does, because it says through your worship, it says that the minutes be amended as follows. And we don't put conversation in minutes. And
Okay.
That is a clear amendment to those minutes. And if you went and looked at those minutes, they have been amended to clarify that.
Okay, but he didn't clarify that it was a mistake. Okay, but you know what I mean? It's just because when I look at it, it looks like we just changed the whole motion. Okay, I just wanted to make sure so it's clear to everybody that the minutes were wrong and that's why it was amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I take it you're comfortable with the amended minutes, with the minutes for that meeting now?
But personally, I would have liked to see a note that the minutes were wrong. That's why that was amended. But I guess that's the procedure. So I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we are looking at the special council meeting of October the 18th. And that unfortunately was one that I had to recluse myself from, so I cannot partake in this part of the conversation. So I would ask to be removed, and perhaps Councillor Drake would like to handle that portion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I would note too that I would be removed on that part too. I would just ask quickly though, we amended those minutes. Did we pass those minutes? Just,
I'm not sure we did. Good point.
yeah, so.
So we'll move on to do that now. I assume through Lorna, there's no problem with my doing that, having stepped in.
That's fine. Yes,
Yeah.
as amended, yes.
I would just observe for those watching from home, this makes it abundantly clear why we're headed to the Supreme Court, right, for dispensation on dealing with some of these matters. So first item then that we have to deal with is approval of the minutes as amended for the meeting of October the 12th. Have I had that?
You need a
has that been
mover
moved?
and
Has
seconder?
that been moved? I guess I can move that. Thank you. Has it been seconded?
No. I'm not going to second.
You're going to have to second this.
Okay, I guess I'll have to.
If
Well,
I,
Sure, I'll second
it's
that.
been moved and seconded. If I can just comment on before we vote, that the point that you were making, Caroline, is picked up in the wording, because it's actually at the very top, and the portion you're concerned about, it reads that the minutes have been amended. It doesn't read that the motion was changed. It says the minutes have been changed. So that implies that the minutes were in fact in error.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Then the Zoom special council meeting of October the 18th.
Now, I will look to recuse myself consistent with past, because I'm a director and I'm also a member of a village wharf. So I believe that I'm not entitled to be part of any discussion.
Okay, then. Thank you.
So
We
I
should
would
only be a
ask
few
to be
minutes.
moved out, please.
And Councillor Snell, would you like to? Yeah, state your reason for recusing yourself, and then you'll both be put in the waiting room.
Okay, well, I also will recluse myself from this portion of this evening's meeting for the similar reasons, that being a member of a group wharf, I do have an interest in the discussion that evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting academic question at this point, but I'm not going to ask it because it could put us in a loop that we would never get out of. Okay, so do we have someone prepared to move the minutes as circulated?
I'll move the minutes as circulated.
Thank you.
Just a minute, please. Sorry.
Yes.
I'll talk to Paula for a sec. So Councillor Snell should be in the waiting room too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let us know when we've got both of them in the waiting room.
You're going to leave me?
No, thank you.
Are you removing me, or do you want me to just
Yeah,
leave?
Paula's working on it. So just a minute, Councillor Snell, please. Sorry. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Okay, so now I'm looking for someone to move the minutes for the meeting of October 18th.
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. So Counselor Clark, and do we have a seconder?
I will second that for a tiny bit of discussion.
Yes, exactly. That's fine. Thank you. We've got a mover and a seconder. Points of discussion. Counselor Wilder.
Because I had recused myself at that meeting, but we'd already had the discussion. I don't know that I'm in a conflict here, or
You've raised exactly the point that occurred to me as we were leading into this, which would put us in an endless loop. But since the content of this is nothing more than confirming that there was virtually no discussion because you recused yourself, I don't
Correct.
see a problem. And I'll
Yeah.
let this step in if there is.
so I was in attendance for the full meeting, which was all of 2 minutes.
Which confirmed that, which set a
There
record
was
for the
no
village.
meeting. That confirmed there was no meeting in essence.
Yes, exactly.
Am I through the chair? Am I correct in saying that?
I believe you are, but I'll refer that to Lorna as she gets to stick handle this sort of administrative question.
He's
I
back
believe-
on.
I believe that is correct. Thank you. Mhm.
And I just would like to take this opportunity to point out that it was a record meeting in terms of how brief it was. And so it's been moved, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's been unanimously passed. Thank you. So Lauren, if we could bring back those that are in the waiting room.
We will. Thank you. Okay, I believe everyone's back. Thank you.
Chair. Thank you, Counselor Drake.
It's hard to hear you, Mayor Ross.
Okay.
That's
Is that better?
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay. So we're on item 5.1 right now, and it's the financial plan for 2022, 2026, the draft, and I'd invite Ken to present it for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen again.
Sure, thank you.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, first of all, the process. The intent this evening is for me to go over the report from a higher level point of view and to save the draft financial document, which is attached to the report, and the details of going through that for the November 8th meeting, which would be the public consultation meeting. Of course, I'm open to answering questions from council on the draft financial plan and any information that they would like regarding the plan. So leaving it at that, I'm going to get started going through the report. First of all, the actual financial plan document that is attached to the report represents scenario A as we go through this presentation. There's two other financial scenarios that are included in the report, those being scenario B and scenario C. So the intent was to present the three scenarios to the public on November 8th, including the detailed information that makes up the base scenario. I'll call it scenario A. If council remembers, we've adopted a financial plan schedule, which will see a financial plan bylaw adopted in January of 2022. So we're currently on that schedule and hoping to meet that timeline. So the three scenarios that are included and which we're going to review is a scenario A, which has a 7% increase in property taxes in 2022 and each year thereafter to 2026, a 10% per annum increase in water user rates from 22 to 26, a 20% increase in ward user rates in 22, a 20% increase in ward user rates in 2023, and 10% increase each year thereafter to 226. Scenario B is a 5% increase in property taxes in 22 and each year thereafter to 226, a 12% increase in water user rates in 2022 and each year thereafter, a 12% increase in ward user rates in 22 and each year thereafter. And scenario C has the 10% per annum increase in property taxes, a 15% per annum increase in water user rates, and a 15% increase in per annum in ward user rates. So these are the three scenarios that are going to be presented to the public. From a big picture point of view, it's always good for council to look at their strategic priorities or goals as part of any financial planning process, as the financial plan should be geared around achieving council's strategic priorities. So these have been included in the report in terms of the priorities that council has set in terms of asset management, financial plan sustainability, consolidated enhanced fire protection, parking bylaw enforcement, official community plan, group wharfages. And then for secondary items in the plan being a road to Fair Cove, traffic control, and the multi-use court. So just to keep in mind that the resources set aside by council in the financial plan should be geared toward achieving council's strategic priorities. And the financial plan has been made up to make those items a priority. So as part of the financial planning process, instead of doing a separate report on the estimated 2021 year-end results, it is included in the budget document. And as you know, we are now reporting to council on the estimates for year-end 2021 based on the third quarter ending September 30th. So the actual financial plan document includes detailed estimates for how 2021 will end up. And so as part of that estimates, there is an estimate of how much of the COVID-19 restart grant funds will be utilized in 2021. And they are being utilized in the projections in terms of spending for emergency supplies, staff time spent on COVID-related issues, loss of revenue, etc. And you can see here from this table that with these items, including the emergency supplies, labor disruption, dedicated staff time, and technology for live streaming, that actually $94,000 of the $181,000 left at the end of 2021 is going to be spent in 2021, and that there's further estimated spending in 2021 for further emergency supplies at $5,000, the e-commerce project that's been approved for council at $1,500, and the expected loss of revenue in 2021, mainly from building permits that are well under budget. And so if there's any extra staff time to the end of the year, that will also have to be calculated into how much of the COVID funds are used. And also the GIS digital file management program, if funds go towards that, that will also factor into how much of the COVID-19 grant restart funds are used. But the estimate right now, without including the extra staff time and the GIS digital file management system, is that we will have approximately $43,000 left over of the covert restart funds after we have utilized the above items for in 2021. So I just thought that we would give council that overview because we said we would report back to council on the status of the COVID-19 grant restart funds. And since these monies, the 94,000, the 44,000 have been projected into the 21 year-end results, the use of those monies. So if we look at the 2021 expected year-end results, we can see in this table the highlights. In the general operating fund, we're expected to be over budget in revenues of $73,000, mostly because of the use of the covert restart grant funds. And in the operating expenses, we're expected to be over by 15,000, and that's additional information systems, legal, finance, planning, building inspection, and emergency costs. In terms of project expenses, the main two projects, two of the main projects are the OCP review and the integrated asset management long-term financial plan. And we're expected that we'll be under budget by $124,000 there, mainly because those projects are going to go into 2022. But these do not have an impact on the bottom line because the funding is coming from reserves and from grants for these projects. So based on these changes in revenues and expenses that are anticipated in 2021, the available net revenue money that's available to transfer to reserves and surpluses is expected to be increased from 368,000 to 426,000, or by $58,000. When we go look at the water operating fund, the revenues are expected to be $8,000 under budget, mostly because there's fewer water connections than anticipated. But we are also expected to be approximately $49,000 lower on the expense side. And that is because in 2021, the water usage is lower than 2020, and it's more in line with 2019. And that has resulted in a positive impact, of course, on our water levies. And also the District of North Vancouver's levy for infrastructure is a little lower than budgeted as well. So those are the two main factors that are resulting in projected savings in the water fund of $49,000. So when you take into account those items, you can see that there's more money available for transfer to the water capital reserve here and surplus of $41,000. So that's a positive note in the water fund. In the ward operating fund, things are very close to budget in terms of revenues. The expenses are expected to be slightly under at $3,000. And so there's slightly less money you can see here that's required to be transferred from surplus of $2,000 to fund the budget deficit in the ward operating fund. When we look at the year-end 21 projections for capital, we're expected to be well under the general capital budget of into the tune of $221,000. The water capital budget expected to be under by $80,000, and the ward capital budget expected to be under by $12,000. Mainly because in general, the multi-use path will only be partially completed in 21, and the safety barriers on Bedwell Bay Road will not proceed in 2022, and the new roof for public workshop is under budget. In the water area, the reason for the savings are the fact that the universal water meter and Tatlow water meter projects are not expected to proceed in 2021. And in the ward area, the budgeted electric motor for the compactor is not expected in 2021. So those are the projected year-end results for 2021. And those projections have been used, and the results to date have been used to inform the 2022 to 2026 financial plan. So when we look at the 2022 budget, which is part of the first year of the plan, I've just indicated earlier the three scenarios that are included in the plan. And so the main impacts that are going to be occurring in the three operating funds, I will go over right now. In the general operating fund, you can see that there's going to be inflationary increase for most expenditure line items, increased support for planning, legal, and information technology. And one of the main factors, of course, is the centralized support recovery for indirect costs are increasing from 50 to 75% in 2022 and to 100% in 2023 based on the approved policy. If council remembers the policy whereby we changed the methodology of allocating indirect support costs to the operating funds and MRN, included a phased in or transitional approach. So in 2021, the budget included a 50% allocation. In 22, the policy indicates that that will move to 75% and 100% in 2023, and that is reflected in the financial plan. In the general operating fund, there is continued dedicated funding to complete the OCP and the asset management / long-term financial plan, which both would have started in 2021. Also in the general operating fund, we have included ongoing funding for an asset management program at $30,000 per year from 22 to 24. In each year, 30,000 has been included. And of course, we are also funding an election in 2022 at approximately $24,000. These items are all funded from grants and reserves and have no impact on the overall bottom line. But
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ken. I think we're okay, but we just had a power surge and we may be on generator and the alarm may go off, but carry on, we're trying, okay?
So not to be alarmed if there's an alarm?
That's right.
Okay. Good, okay. So the water operating fund major impacts in the financial plan are the inflationary increases, and also the water rates from Metro Vancouver are increasing by 4.1% in 2022, 6.1% in 2023, 10.6% in 2024, 11.7% in 2025, and 11.5% in 2026. So those increases have been factored into the water operating financial plan. And the other factor that's been projected in water is the fact that the water usage would be more in line with 21 and 19, not the larger increase. This should say 2020 instead of 2022 here. The larger increase in water usage occurred in 2020, not in 2022. So the projected water usage included in the financial plan is more in line with 2021, allowing for a small increase. So the other factor that I've just went over that is affecting water is the allocation of the central support costs, which are moving from 50% to 75% to 100%. As per the policy again.
I'm sorry, I think we're going to have to pause for a minute. Two of our council members have lost power. And so if we could just, your worship, could we just have a recess?
Me just, if I could pause there for a second. Carolina Clark, Counselor Clark is waiting to get let back in.
Okay, I'll let her.
Counselor Snell is back in and Counselor Wilder is circling. So let's get those folks back in. Let's take maybe a 5-minute recess, see if we can get everybody in place.
Okay,
And
thank you.
maybe, so we'll go 5 minutes from now on my watch, if that's okay. People can
Perfect.
just,
Okay, my computer's not working. Okay, so do you want to write down the time? So that
I've got it. Yeah.
okay, so my computer's not. Sorry, my computer's.
Ken, could you take your report down just for a few minutes, please?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay, good.
I'm back in. Thank you.
I'm not sure Lisa's in yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think she is. She might have to log out and log back in.
Yeah, and Paula's had, her computer went down, so she's moving computers, so it might take a couple of minutes.
Lisa,
Yeah, that's quite a test. So did the auxiliary power kick in?
Yes,
Yeah, that'll glitch your computer quickly.
I tell you, but we can hear a buzzing. We hope the alarm doesn't go off. So.
I'm gonna close that door because.
Mhm.
Did everybody's power went out or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
is the power still out or we were running on generators?
at the office, I
We're on
believe,
generator.
yeah, we're on generator because it went about 4 minutes before everybody started to go.
Oh, we're back on power over here.
Yeah, we're back on
Yeah.
power too. My generator didn't even turn on. It was so quick.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're
Counselor
just trying to,
Wilder's still having trouble.
thanks,
getting in.
Sherry. We're just trying to pull some people in right now.
Counselor Wilder said she's tried a few times and she still can't get on, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm sorry about that, everyone. Being an exciting meeting.
We were worried about this today. With potential.
Yeah, so was I.
We had a backup plan. We asked for
Good.
no wind. It didn't work.
Didn't work.
No.
Yeah, Counselor Drake mentioned you can also always call in for audio.
yeah. Have we used that before, Lorna?
Yes.
Council members usually need to be visible, but if there's an exception, we will make an exception.
I'm just telling her to close the app and open again to see if she can get on. Are we gonna wait for Councillor Wilder before Ken
She's in.
continues his presentation? She's in?
Now it
Okay.
says
She's
my
in.
battery is running low.
Yeah,
I don't know
Lisa,
why it's been
Lisa's
sucking
back.
all day.
I'm back.
Hello, Lisa.
Welcome back.
All right, just give me a minute. I've got to look.
Yeah, you still got a minute on that, 5 minutes. We'll take some time
Thank you.
and
Who do we need to wait for?
we'll wait.
We're waiting for me now.
Yeah,
For you.
Up with my computer. Yeah.
yeah. You were the person and now Lorna's taken your spot. And we have, luckily, we have 36 seconds on the clock.
It was weird, hey?
Yeah.
Although when I drove out this morning to work, there's a huge pile of trees across the road
Yeah.
by the lake. I don't know if anyone else saw that.
I was up springboard and it was raining very hard, but not a tree down.
Yeah, I think that island of Vancouver.
Oh,
Thank you for your patience. I think we're good.
okay. So I think we've got people back on and we'll, Ken, thank you for your patience. Thanks for taking down your presentation. We'll look to put it back up and carry on. Council,
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
I will do that.
Okay. And we'll try,
How are we now?
we can see your presentation. Thank you, Ken.
At what point did we lose the council members?
At
When you-
you were talking about the 2022 to 2026 financial plan.
Okay, so I was going through the 3 operating funds in terms of the
You were
impact.
at the water operating fund.
Okay, so I'll start from there then, maybe. So the major impacts in the financial plan, the water operating fund, are the inflationary increases and the increases from Metro Vancouver for purchase of water, 4.1% in 2022, 6.1% in 2023, 10.6% in 2024, 11.7% in 2025, and 11.5% in 2026. And these increases have been factored into the financial plan. And the projected water usage for 2022 and going forward is projected more in line with 21 and 2019, not 2020. This here should read 2020 here instead of 2022. So we're hopeful that that occurs. And you can see when we went over the 21 figures that were substantially lower in 21 than we were, of course, in 2020 in terms of water usage. In terms of the centralized support costs, those are allocated out to MRN, water, and ward. And they are moving from 50 to 75 in 2022 and 100% in 23 per the approved transition in the policy. In terms of the water ward operating fund, there's inflationary increases, the same centralized support cost charge of indirect costs that will be phased in. And then there's reduced costs for pickup and disposal of waste, recyclables, and organics based on an updated agreement with the contractor. So those are the major impacts. Just to let council know, for every 1% increase in property taxes, we raised an additional $9,100. For each increase in water and ward user rates, $3,100 and $1,350 respectively are generated from each 1% increases in those areas. So when we look at the 3 scenarios, we can see here that the first scenario, as I've indicated, has a 7% increase in property taxes, a 10% per annum increase in water user rates, and the 20% increase in ward user rates in 22 and 23 each, and 10% in each year thereafter. So we can see in this table what happens with those respective increases. You can see that, for example, in 2022, the reserves and surplus transfers in the general operating fund are at 489,000 as opposed to 425 in the 2021 budget, and then move up to 860,000 in year 2026. And you can see with the 10% increase per annum in ward that you go from a transfer into water operating reserve and surplus of 51,000, which is $20,000 over the 2021 budget, and move up to 107,000 in 2026. And here's where you see in the ward operating fund the rationale behind the larger increases in 2022 and 23 to avoid any deficit in ward operating and to always have enough surplus money to be able to transfer to a reserve. And in 2022, with those 20% increases, you go from 7,000 in 2022 to 20,000 in 2023. And then after 2023, with the 10% increases, you go all the way up to 73,000 that is available for transfer. So if you look at the three together, you can see you go from 547,000 per annum in 2022 that's available for transfer, all the way up to 1,040,000 in 2026. So in terms of the second scenario, which is the 5% increase in property taxes and the 12% per annum increase in ward user rates and water user rates, you can see here that the available money for transfer, of course, is lower in 2022, and it builds up to a lower amount in 2026. So the amount available to transfer is 740,000 in 2026, as opposed to 860,000 because of the lower tax increase. And you can see here that the water money available transfer is higher because of the larger 12% increase versus the 10%. And you go from 58,000 to 154,000 available for transfer. And that in 2026, the 154 compares to the 107 in scenario A. And in ward, if you keep the 12% increase per annum, you're still left with a deficit in the ward operating fund here of 4,000 in 2022 and 5,000 in 2023. But after that, you start building up. So there's 52,000 available in 2026 for transfer. So you can see here, you have total projected reserve and surplus transfers with those increases of 524,000 and building up to 946 in 2026. So scenario C, which is the higher property tax increase and the 15% increase in water user rates and water user rates. You can see here, you move up in terms of money that's available for transfer in 2022 at 516,000 in the general operating fund to 1,057,000 in the 2026, all because of the larger 10% increase in the property taxes. And in the water operating area, you now have available in 2022, 67,000 for transfer, which builds up to 231,000 at the end of 2026. And in the ward area, you have a break-even position in 2022, and then you start having enough money for transfer in 2023 of 5,000 and building up to 86,000 in 2026. So you move from total transfers of $583,000 in 2022 to 1.374 million in 2026. So those are the three scenarios that were intended to be presented to the public for their comment. And you can see with these scenarios, the compounding impact of annual increases. And the larger the increases, the faster the buildup of reserves and surplus accounts. So I just wanted to mention something that came forward in terms of the Canada Community Building Fund. The UBCM, of course, has an agreement with the federal government for the gas tax funds that have now been renamed the Canada Community Building Fund. And they've sent out a memo that says that the 10-year gas tax agreement is going to expire in March of 2024. And they note that there's a lot of unspent gas tax money in reserves. And the UBCM said they would be contacting communities to confirm that the funds would be utilized by the respective local governments on eligible projects within the program by the end of 2024. That's not to say that the transfers from the federal government for the Canada Community Building Fund will end, but there's an expectation that you have used the majority of the money that you received by March of 2024. And so the financial plan that we've constructed does include the use of community works funds or gas tax dollars for eligible projects in capital and in operating. For example, the OCP is being funded with community works funds, and also part of the asset management and the ongoing asset management program is being funded with community works money. And there's some capital projects that are also being funded in the capital plan with these community works funds so that we can utilize them. And even with this spending, there's projected to be approximately $300,000 left over in 2024, but we will be looking at further allocations of these funds as we construct further financial plans and as priorities come up, particularly in the water area, of course. So right now, I'd like to just, in this presentation, go over how those three scenarios would affect an average home and taxpayer in 2022. And there is a table included in the report that shows that in scenario A, well, first of all, you can see that the average home value in Belcarra in 2021 is projected to be $1.994 million, which is very comparable to Anmore. And that is with, of course, taking the anomalies for the water lot leases out, which the provincial statistics don't take out. So you can see here that in scenario A, the 7% increase in property taxes, 10% in water user rates, and 20% increase in ward user rates, that there's a 214 for a home that's connected to the water system. There's a $214 increase in property taxes, $125 increase in water user rates, and a $74 increase in ward user rates for a total increase of $413. And in scenario B, the 5, the 12, and the 12%, you can see, of course, that there's only a $153 increase in property taxes, $150 increase in water user rates, and $45 increase in ward user rates for a total increase of $348 or 6.1%. So in scenario C, again, for a home connected to the water system, the 10% increase in the property taxes would equate to $306. The 15% increase in water rates would equate to $188. And the 15% increase in ward user rates would equate to $56 for a total increase of $550. So when we look at the homes that aren't connected to the water system, of course, the increases are lower for the water user fees. And so you can see here that the total increase scenario A is at 376. And scenario B, it's at 303. And in scenario C, it's at $494. So the intent, as I said at the beginning, is to bring the report and the financial plan document to the public and to discuss these three scenarios on November 8th. But of course, I'm happy to answer any questions that council has of the draft financial plan and the report, if council would like to pose those questions now.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And just to clarify, Ken, so I think what you outlined is you wanted to hear questions and comments and observations from council tonight. Were you looking to have the feedback and questions from the public on November 8th?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. So why don't we start with council? Anybody have a question on council? Councillor Clark, I see you have your hand up. If you would please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Russ. So just to be clear, are we at the point where we can go and ask all of our questions, make amendments, or is this going to be presented to the public and then council will look through it some more through the chair, to Lauren, I guess.
Your worship, it
Yes.
is, council can ask questions, but the public question period and presentation is for the next council meeting. And so then I believe council recommendations would come after the public input.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I just have one question for now. I'll dig more in once this is presented to the public, obviously. So to the chair, to Ken, on page 3 out of 9, when we're talking about the unspent grant for 2020, so the COVID-19 restart grant funds, can you talk a little bit more about the 58,646.80 dedicated staff time expenses here, please? I would just like to know a little bit more of what that was about.
Okay, I think I'll go over that, but I think Lorna may have some things to add to. So staff track their time dealing on COVID-related issues, including going to meetings to discuss COVID emergency issues and other COVID items. They spend their time, I gather, on also cleaning and other things like that.
Yeah.
And when they track their hours, it's put into a spreadsheet, and their hourly rate is calculated on the hours that they have spent going to those meetings and dealing with COVID issues. And then I believe it's a 20% overhead is added to those rates to figure out an approximate cost for dedicated staff time. And that's how you come out with the $58,000. So I think that we do have a detailed spreadsheet that has the actual hours for each staff member that has been spent on those items. And I think, Lorna, do you have anything else to add about that?
Well, I would just add that at the beginning of COVID, we had daily staff meetings. I was on meetings frequently with the ministry and with Fraser Health, just to ensure that the protocols were followed. The by-election created a tremendous COVID-related work and the follow-up. So we were able to have a by-election that was safe during COVID. And so those are just the number of hours that were spent, staff time were spent on COVID-related items.
Thank you, Lorna.
Okay, so just a follow-up question, if I may, through the chair. So is this on top of our already budgeted operating expenses? Or is this extra? That's where I guess I'm not very clear at.
So I'll answer that. So that's on top of the emergency supplies that we see down here that have been spent on various items that are COVID related.
No, I meant, is this on top of our regular operating expenses?
Okay, so
yeah.
it's not on top of our regular operating expenses.
Thank
It's
you.
part of our regular operating expenses, but according to the rules for what you can recover from the grant,
Mhm.
that it is an item that's chargeable to the grant. basically.
Okay, so just another follow-up. So that part that council budgeted for 2020 for the operating budget. So there's obviously going to be some leftover there. Is that correct? So if you're pulling the money from somewhere else. So is that money going to stay there, or is going to go to other reserves like capital reserves or such?
It will all flow through the bottom line to the reserve.
Okay, so we can put that towards capital if we want.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, that's my main concern. I think if we, my feedback on that, if we could do that, take those monies and put it on capital, that would be really helpful to build up our reserves, right, and not have to raise the taxes too much this year. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just to clarify further, what's really happening here is you're bringing some restricted surplus money into reserves.
Yeah.
For use on whatever council wants to use those reserves on. And most of those reserves, of course, are capital related.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's all I wanted to make sure on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, and I'll go to Councillor Drake.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ken. One item that's has intrigued me since we first started looking at our overall revenue situation has been the comparison with Anmore. So I don't know if you can reply to it now, but I'd just like to note that when we do make a presentation, I'd be interested to know how our average tax is comparing with Anmore. I believe we're pretty close now, but it's something I'd be interested in at our next council meeting.
So yeah, this in the financial plan document, of course, we have the comparisons at the end that show the property tax comparisons between Anmore, Bowen Island, and Lions Bay.
Right.
So we can go over those in more detail on the 8th as well. But if there's any further comparisons that aren't there, you can let them know and we can have that information available.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drake. And looking to see if there's anyone on council who wants to ask a question. So I'm not seeing anybody. I am seeing, I believe, I'm seeing two members of the public that have no last name. So I'm looking past them, but I'm seeing someone who I believe has been on for a while, but there actually isn't a component here for questions from the public on this at this point. What's been relayed is on November 8th, there will be then, and our financial person is very willing to go through and answer questions then. So hopefully that helps members of the public who were trying to speak tonight. Bruce Drake, I've got your hand up again. Are you looking to?
No, only to remove it. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody else on council with any questions. I know there'll be some on November 8th, so I will be looking to move it back to Ken to conclude the presentation. If you have anything further you'd like to add.
Just to summarize, I mean, we'll be presenting this financial plan document and going through it, which is attached to this report, of course, in detail on November 8th. So the public and council will have plenty of opportunity to ask questions and seek clarity about any item in the financial plan.
Okay, perfect. And that's on November 8th. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we will we'll go now. Oh, sorry, I think you're concluded, so you can probably take down.
I just wondered, I think there was a motion,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, at the beginning of the report there.
Right, and I've got it right here that the report entitled Draft 2022-2026 Financial Plan be considered at the public budget presentation on November 8, 2021. That's the one you're referring to. And so I'm now going to look to two councillors to move and
So
second
moved.
that.
And
Councillor Clark,
second, and second.
Councillor Clark moving, Councillor Wilder moving. It's on the floor for discussion. Any discussion by council?
Ken, could you take your report down, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
So I'm going to keep as per the instructions, I'm going to keep the discussion with council. So council, any further discussion right now? Not seeing any. I'll look to call the question on that motion. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And the motion carries in the affirmative. And I'm going to move to, so I'm going to, Esmail Julisani, you've had your hand up, but I don't know what you're on. Could you tell me what topic you're on, please? Okay,
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
wait,
Thank you,
Who's-
Mayor Ross. I'm Councillor Esmail.
no, stop, please. Who's on this? Who's speaking right now?
Me,
No,
Ismail.
okay, so can you tell me what topic you're on, please?
Yes,
Are you
Yeah.
on the Stuart Novak Public Works and Emergency Preparedness topic?
thank you, Mayor Ross and Councillor Esmail. I can never forget your
No,
exceptional
stop,
and
please,
physical
stop,
kindness
please,
and
stop,
fairness
please.
to me as my
Put it on
immediate
mute.
neighbors
Put it
with
on mute.
conflict of interest.
Lorna, can you hear?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wanted out of fairness to go to that person and find out what topic that person was on the agenda. I'm not too sure, but they're not talking about the emergency preparedness. And they're not talking about the last topic because it was by virtue of our financial person moved over to the 8th. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to ask Ishmael to just simply move out of the meeting for the next period of time. And when we come back, you can have one more try, but you need to be on topic and you need to be respectful. And those rules are for everyone in this meeting. All right? Thank you. So Paula, if you could just put them on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we'll bring them back then. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, take your time to do this. Thank you.
Okay, that's done.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, thank you. We'll look to ask Stuart to outline the next report, which is 5.2.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Okay, staff asks council to approve recommendation for the 2022 UBCM Community Resiliency Investment Grant Funding in the amount of $49,836. and that council approve grant funding. Sorry, my throat's a little bit sticky. And that council approve grant funding opportunities as recommended in Belcarra's new community wildfire resiliency plan. Funding opportunities include promote and distribute fire smart educational material and resources. Belcarra staff will work with fire department members to develop and deliver fire prevention information to the community via social media and print. Total activity cost is $6,240. Also, to work to create a development permit area, a DPA, for the wildfire hazard in order to establish requirements for the exterior design and finish of buildings. The objective is to hire a consultant to draft wildfire hazard development permit area guidelines and DPA map for insertion into the OCP. Cost of that one is $9,902. Also, local fire smart representative training for 3 Belcarra staff that will participate in fire smart virtual training. That one's at a total cost of $1,080. And finally, the largest one is fuel management prescriptions. Prescription development of 31.7 hectares of local government land, which is a strip of land south of Bedwell Bay and Main Avenue that will help to create a fuel break and reduce wildfire hazard in the forest of a total of $32,614. Your worship, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Stuart, for that. So we'll open up first to questions from council. Thank you. Councillor Clark, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. For some reason, it wasn't muting. So what is the completion, when would those projects be completed if council were to approve this tonight? Through the chair to Stuart.
Well, this is, and once again, through the chair, this is grant funding that we're applying for 2022. Usually you have at least a year to finish off the projects. So once again, we're just finishing up of 2021's projects, which include the Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan. That's just being finished and it'll be presented probably in our next council meeting. And through those recommendations, we've submitted to the UBCM for these grant funding opportunities, which will be hopefully completed in 2022.
Okay, so this one, when will we know if we get this grant or not? To the chair, to Stuart.
So due to time constraints, we've actually had to apply for them already. Part of the criteria for getting these grants accepted is a resolution through council. So council has to approve these grant funding applications that we've already submitted. Like I say, because it's actually closed and because everything was coming together too fast, we literally had to apply and then wait for the council meeting to get the actual resolution through council. So pending council's approval, you know, it'll have to be reviewed by UBCM and then approved, hopefully.
Thank you. That's all my questions for now.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Take a quick look, see if we have anybody else on council wanting to ask a question. If not, I'll go to Jim Chisholm, but I'm not sure whether it's Jim or Sherry. Go ahead, one of you, please. Oh.
Sherry, you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Paula's going to help her do that.
Okay, we'll take a second.
I'm trying. Oh, there she is. Okay.
There I
Sherry.
am now.
There, okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is the land that you're talking about clearing in the forest, is that parkland? Although it's in the village of Belcarra.
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Stuart, please.
So this is the portion of land that is deemed the reserve, which is right above the municipal hall, and it's outside what Metro Van considers their park area.
30 acres, 31 acres.
So it is not parkland. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mhm. It's Village of Belcarra.
Oh, I didn't know we had that much.
Mhm.
I was unaware of that. The other thing is, how much is the grant going to cost us? Is it a 50-50 deal?
Through the chair, please.
Yep, go ahead, please. Thank you.
This is 100% UBCM grant funding. So we have to have the money in our reserve to pay for it up front, but it'll be 100% grant funding opportunity.
So it's really clearing the forest floor. Is that what I understand?
Through the chair, yes,
Yep,
this is
go ahead.
clearing some of the fire load as per whatever conditions in the prescription asked for.
Oh, because I mean, there's a lot of forest in our village. A lot of it is parkland. It just seems like, you know, there's a lot of money going to a very small spot, considering all the parkland. Is the park considering doing anything?
Stuart?
That
Are
would
you
probably
aware?
be to Carolina because she's our rep to the park.
Yeah, just,
Let me just speak. Do you want me to speak to Robin?
okay, sorry, Sherry, I'm not stopping Carolina from speaking, but I just want to confirm we're having.
Paul is
we're having-
working on the matter, your worship.
Yeah, so Sherry,
Yes.
we're working on.
I'm
unmuting.
unmuted now.
Okay, now she's available.
Okay,
Good.
You wanna
okay,
just-
so just,
You heard that,
yeah,
Carolina?
I did, just to staff, what's happening is every time I try to unmute myself, I need the host approval. So I don't know what's happening to the system. And that's probably going to happen to everybody. No, so to reply to Sherry's question, yeah, well, that's something that the tree bylaw committee has identified. So part of one of the recommendations from the committee was to reach out to Metro to see what they can do about that. As far as I know right now, the only thing that you can do, it's like, for instance, if you live beside the park, there's a tree that's a dangerous tree that you think is going to fall on your property, you could contact them and ask them to come take a look. And I've seen that happening a couple of times around the village where they came and cut the tree to not damage the private property. You will find that information on Belcarra's website, who you can call. But as far as for fuel management, that's something that I believe it's really important and parks should be looking into. But, you know, but I wouldn't be too hopeful about that because we're not the only community that obviously that hosts a regional park. So, you know, it's many cases around the region that you know, there's houses close to the park, and that would be a huge project. And if it's like 32 grand just to clear that small place there behind the village hall, I mean, imagine when we start looking into clearing all borders from parks and private property. So at the moment, the answer is no, but it's something that the village is asking from parks and something that we're working on.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Well, as long as you're kind of thinking about it, that's good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, Carolina. Okay, we'll go to Joe Elworthy, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council. My comment, of course, is on the same topic, which is, of course, the fuel management prescription area. And am I on? Can you
You're
hear
on.
me?
Thank you. Yep, you're on.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, yeah, I mean, number one, of course, I'm in favor of applying for the grant. That's why wouldn't we? That makes a lot of sense to me. My concern would be, we're not just talking about a small swath of land behind the back of the village hall here, right? Based on the map, right? It's that whole area that's prescribed in there, which I happen to be, domiciled in that area and know it pretty well in the back there. And I can't imagine the costs that it might eventually take to, and I don't know, not an expert on fuel management and how it would look, but it seems to me that the $32,614 would be a rather small amount of money, and it would likely take an awful lot more. And so my concern would be, once we venture into this prospect, and it's important we do, then are we going to get stuck with more costs and further costs? Because once we begin, you really can't finish this. You've got to do what's appropriate. And so that's my only concern to council, is that the total cost, what that might look like and what an estimate of that might be looking like. But nevertheless, we should apply for the grant. I agree entirely. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And I think the intent is, and you've
Looks
noted
like we
it-
already did. Mhm.
Sorry?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Mayor Ross. I'm not unmuting myself again because I'm afraid I won't be able to get on again.
Okay.
So,
So I
yeah.
was just responding to Joe. I think your point about us applying for a grant, it makes sense. And it also makes sense that we apply for grants for work that we feel we can do, and we don't take on work that's a magnitude beyond.
Yeah.
At one point, there was the ability to have regional districts come in and share with community. And I'm not sure where that is now, but we could certainly look at it. I think it's critical that parks do, if there's a mechanism, come in and do some of that work, either with external funding or where possible with internal. Okay, so we have Ben Shulistani. Thank you for putting up your last name. And if you could go ahead on this topic, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. At the last council meeting, you asked me for evidence of tree cuttings on Marine Avenue, which were done without making an application to the village and without conducting an environmental assessment. On October 17, we sent an email to the council, which I'm surprised is not included in the agenda for today.
Okay, what I'm going to
in the
do
email.
is I'm just going to mute you, because we're actually not on that topic right now. And you may have the opportunity at the end of the meeting to ask that question. But right now, I would like to stay with this out of respect for the council and for the people that are clearly on this topic. Okay? And I'm looking to see if we have any further speakers to this. And I think we've got some hands up. Jim, I believe, Sherry, your hand's probably coming down. Is that correct? Oh, yes? Okay, thank you. And I see, and Ben, your hand isn't down, but we've asked you to come back at a later time. So right now, we'll return it to council. There's a motion on the floor. And that motion is that council
Am I? Nothing?
Yeah, so why don't you ask your question and go through Lorna? We're in the regular part of the meeting. Is it Councillor Wilder, you wanted to ask a question? Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you for unmuting me there. I couldn't, this is just a point of order through the chair. I thought we had a policy that anyone that's speaking has to have their video on.
So are you referring to the new procedure bylaw?
Didn't we discuss this already? And we said anyone that's going to be speaking has to have their video on? So we know who we're actually talking to?
Well, the new procedure bylaw has that in it. And
Well, we have a gentleman speaking tonight that doesn't have his video on.
Okay, well, let me confirm if we have a policy. I believe we have the new procedural bylaw has that in it for questions at the end of the meeting, but let's take the time just to go through, Lorna.
I
and
just
check
would like
on-
that clarified. Thank you
Yep,
very much
yep.
for this and future meetings.
Yep,
Yes, your worship, at this time, we do not have that policy. It will be in the new procedure bylaw when it comes forward to the next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for clarification on that.
that's okay. And I just want to clarify, when it comes to questions at the end that are not on the agenda, it does have that in, I believe, correct? So that's, I think, where the piece was about how we're moving. At the end of the meeting, there's a time reserved for questions. First, I believe from memory, that are on this agenda, ones that are on and that are not on. And then at that point, people need their first and last name and they need their video on. Is that correct? Lorna?
Thank you so much for the clarification.
Yeah, no, and appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. We're trying to move in a way that we get people coming with us and also working in a way that's respectful to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so it's now in front of council. So we have and Stuart, thank you very much for that presentation and those folks that added to it. So we've got that motion that council approve an application for 2022 UBCM Community Resiliency Investment Grant Funding in the amount of $49,836, and that council confirm its willingness to provide grant management should funding be approved. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder.
So moved.
Councillor Clark moving, Councillor Wilder seconding. Any additional discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Please state aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I would note it passes in the affirmative and it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And we're on to reports from the mayor and council committee representatives. And at some point, probably not now, but in a while, we'll look to take 8 to 10 minute recess break, and we'll let our chief administrative officer give us a sign for that. So on the mayor's report, I'm very pleased to be able to, under 6.1, let the people assembled here tonight know that I was part of a, excuse me, a Chamber of Commerce event, which was a meeting of all the mayors in the Tri-Cities. So including Port Coquitlam, Port Moody, Anmore, and Belcarra. And the Commerce put on an absolutely fabulous night. It was very well done. It was done in accordance with all COVID regulations. They even moved some of them up. And it was a very, very good meeting. And there were some interesting things that came up, but it's noted many of the similarities between the mayors and what they're doing, and also some differences. And I'll leave those to more specific times to talk. I went on last Saturday morning and was joined by Lisa at the Tri-Cities Prayer Breakfast. And I would note that Carolina was looking to come, but had a job commitment. And so I want to thank her for looking to come, and Lisa for coming after a long week away. But it was a very, very good meeting. It was a meeting of faith leaders, people that have worked very hard through the pandemic to provide support to people in the broad array of Tri-Cities communities, including ours. And it was a very, very nice piece. Anmore and Belcarra went together. Paulie Cryer, who's one of the counselors in Anmore, had done some work to bring the villages back to that event. And I was very honored to be able to go and to be there. And this coming Wednesday evening, there is a Metro housing meeting, and Lisa and I are both attending. And I just wanted to stress not who's attending and who isn't attending, but counselors are very, very busy with their commitments. But what you're seeing is a sense of counselors pitching in where they can, and we're always very appreciative of that. And this housing meeting will be, it's Metro Housing, and they do some wonderful work. And we're looking forward to going to that. And then Lisa and or I will share an update on that. And I just, yeah, I'll finish off on that. One of the things when I came into the job, I thought it was very important that we move collectively out into the community. And I've tried to do that with other members of council to make sure that we are part of the broader community and we can look to support other municipalities and have them in turn support us at times. And I'll have some good things to report in the next while about some support we're getting from communities towards us. And the Council of Councils, we had members come into the Council of Councils meeting, which is bringing all the mayors and all members of council from Metro in. And it's interesting, both of them have been done virtually, and they are good meetings. And I think it was incredible questions. It's really designed for people that are, I think, counselors and are not in on all the Metro meetings. And they do a lot of great work in terms of providing information. And it's pretty impressive, the array of questions that are asked by counselors from around the region, including ours. So thank you to our members of council that attended. And I would just note that the final item is TransLink 2050, the report that we're looking to get feedback on. It's on our website. And in addition, we've got TransLink 2050 are scheduled to appear as a delegation in November. So we're looking forward to having them come out and be able to take questions from council and also from the public in general. So I wanted to conclude with that and pass it on to, I think I'm going to pass it on to, I'm going to check with Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark, did you want to be on and give a report? We had Councillor Drake, but do you want to go ahead?
No, it was just a report on the council committees. If I may just give a little update about parks.
Yeah, yep, sure, yep.
Okay, so just to remind everybody, the paid parking, it's off for parking in Belcarra Park as well as White Pine Beach. This will come back again next year as a seasonal approach to try to mitigate the traffic that we get and turnover, try to make the turnover greater. So paid parking will come back next season, but right now you can park there for free. Another quick update, Port Moody, along with Metro Vancouver's parks, they're going to do a joint traffic study around here. It should be completed sometime early in 2022. So the main reason for this study is to, obviously, we all know we're tired of seeing the traffic that the parks, that visitors to parks create for us in Belcarra. Sometimes we sit on that line for half an hour. Sometimes we're lucky enough, we just sit there for 10 minutes. So between a lot of emails exchanged between myself, Mayor Ross and Parks, as well as Port Moody, right now they're going to do this traffic study to come up with, see if they can come up with a better solution for the next year. And I just want to leave a note here of appreciation for Port Moody for putting, I know it's not cheap, and I know, every municipality right now it's having their own issues due to COVID and loss of revenue. So I do appreciate when I drive into Belcarra and I see that the concrete barriers are being put along the roads there to make it safer, not just for cars, but also for pedestrians and people driving in and out of the village, especially fire trucks and ambulances. So I just wanted to give a quick note and thank Port Moody for their efforts that they did, that they put this year on try to mitigating the traffic over here. And that is all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Maybe we could get just a little more definition at a future meeting in terms of who's all involved in that traffic study, because we had looked to also bring TransLink on that. So hopefully we can maybe do that. But appreciate your presentation. And I've got Ian Devlin is going to make a PowerPoint presentation, and I believe Councillor Drake will also be doing some things. And I also believe that staff may want to provide some input on this too, some of the things that they've been doing. So
Your worship,
yes,
sorry, could we maybe have a recess first?
you want to take it now?
Would that be
Okay.
okay?
Sure. So let's do that. And is 10 minutes okay for people?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. So 10 minutes, everybody come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
8:40, we'll be back, 40-ish.
Sounds good. I'll set my time. So when we get to that 8:40 and we get that buzzer, we're off to the races.
So Polly, you're still on there. Seems every time we put ourselves on mute, we can't unmute ourselves. I'm not sure if that's an ongoing
Okay.
issue we're working on.
I muted the room because we had a little bit of disruption. So
Oh, okay.
now I
That's
need
what it
to,
was.
yeah, so I have to click on you. So it's just taking a little bit more time to get everybody unmuted that needs
So
to be.
should I go on mute? And then if I want to unmute, then how do I get your attention?
I will, if you mute yourself now, when we come back from the break, I'll unmute all of the council members. What I have to do is ask you to unmute.
I saw that, but I couldn't catch your attention
Mhm,
at one
okay.
point there.
Okay, okay. All right, I'm gonna go upstairs and talk to Laura
Okay.
and the
Go,
mayor.
go have your break.
Okay?
I don't want to take, like I've already taken
Okay.
2 minutes off
I'll
of
be
your
right
break.
back.
I'm so sorry. I'm going on mute. Bye.
You should be up front. Everybody's else now? Okay. Karen? Are you gonna say something? I don't think so.
Oh, I can unmute myself now with no problem.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
what I was just going to say. Mhm.
Lorna, is 10 minutes up for you to join Ismail? Because I think it's an hour has passed.
Ex- Excuse me, Mr. Shilastani, that's the role of the mayor who's chairing the meeting. Thank
I
you.
know, he said 10 minutes, it's 1 hour has passed.
Yeah,
Okay, 1 hour is not 10 minutes. Do you agree? Is
Mayor
or
Ross,
maybe you-
do you want to
so,
jump in?
what is 10 minutes in your?
Well, mine is 10 to 15 minutes, and I ask our person at 10 to 15 minutes to put Ishmael back in, and if he's on the line and would like to go in, then I will ask her to do it. I actually am not the one calculating the minutes, and we're actually trying to work as a group. And, you know, when you.
Has your
speak-
group calculated the 10 minutes?
Your
Well,
worship, I do.
I'll tell you this right now. If you would like, who am I talking to? Am I talking to Ishmael?
It does.
No, I'm
This is
asking
a
that question
consent
because,
citizen. You said 10 minutes. You said
no,
10
hang on a
minutes.
sec.
You
I'm
said
gonna
10
take,
minutes, didn't you?
no, I'm gonna take
10
some time.
minutes.
I'm gonna take some time. If Ishmael, who was on, that was the person who was asked to go off for 10 to 15 minutes. Ishmael was the person that was up on the screen, his name. So Ishmael, are you there? Would you like to talk? Because I don't think I'm talking to Ishmael right now.
You
And
have,
your
you have
worship,
put him on a,
your
you
worship,
put him
I
on a
would
lot,
like to,
you have put
your
him out.
worship, I
Okay,
would like to say,
yep.
I do not show Ishmael in the waiting room. I show Ben on the screen and I show Ben in the waiting room. So I don't
That's not
understand that.
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay, so
That's not true.
here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. If Ishmael was in the waiting room,
He's right now in the waiting room.
well,
My understanding, I just called him. He's waiting in the waiting room for an hour.
Okay.
You said 10 minutes.
well, okay, I'm gonna tell you, Mr. Shulistani, that it was not an hour ago. So I'm gonna move you off because we're trying to move ahead with this meeting.
You can violate the human rights however you.
Okay, you know what? It's definitely.
You have to respond to the
it's-
human.
Okay.
You will be
So
liable to
I'm
human
actually gonna ask Ian Devlin, who's actually on the agenda right now, to I'll just confirm with Bruce that Ian is going to start off with his presentation. Is that correct, Bruce?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
I would
thank you.
just like to say, I'd like to say before Ian begins, how much I appreciate all the work that he's done. He has a summary for us now, which follows on from the initial discussions we had 2 weeks ago when I dealt with some of the recommendations that he had made in behalf of our water committee. So I would ask for council's attention to this second technical report from our water committee. Ian.
Oh, remarkable. I'm unmuted now, I think. So thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to speak to council. Appreciate the time. I could ask Paula to put the presentation up. It's the first time I've worked through through Zoom on a PowerPoint. So I'd like to give you the just an overview of the technical brief number 2 that we submitted. Okay, slide forward, please, Paula. Okay, nobody in the water committee expected to discover issues that we encountered. The complexity of the municipal water supply indicated documentation didn't appear to be available, record keeping not available, procedural issues that we're looking for were either not available or non-existent. Slide forward, please. Since the first meeting of the Water Committee in 2019, we've been striving to obtain the sort of information that will come from these council initiatives. Everything will require much work and considerable time to arrive at any conclusions regarding the 10 puzzle pieces that are laid out in this brief. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Okay. Looking at these currently on the table, they fit very well as a comprehensive program. Belcarra water system is operated with potable water as the priority, and staff have done an excellent job ensuring the safety of our water. Water Committee has identified the need for development of an operational and maintenance manual with procedures based on science in order to manage current and future combined potable water and firefighting system. Next slide, please. Water Committee anticipates this operational manual should solve issues with documentation, record keeping, and procedures that we encountered. Trying to understand the complexity of the Belcarra municipal water system. Staff struggled to provide information requested by the Water Committee, and we felt that an operation and maintenance manual would have been able to provide the information if it was available. Issues with maintaining adequate chlorination residuals at higher water levels in Tatlow Reservoir results in Belcarra not using the existing capacity to its maximum. Next slide. Councillor Drake reviewed sections 1 to 5 of our report, and I don't intend to go through in detail that he went through at the last meeting, but I would like to just provide sort of an overview of each of the sections from the point of view of the Water Committee. Next slide, please. Item 1 was a water system operated manual, maintenance manual. Our water system is a dual purpose system used for both domestic potable water and for firefighting. The operation of Belcarra's water system is focused right now on potable water, and it was felt that an operating manual is needed to establish how to operate a dual purpose water system. Next slide, please. Okay, number 2 was the need for this water manual, a water operation and maintenance manual, assigned to Chris Bolt in February 2021. Ralph Drew, on his own initiative, I believe it was in September, prepared a draft for this manual. He has subsequently added and updated with additional drawings, and this manual should continue to evolve. We consider this to be a very good framework and recommend the material developed by Chris Bolt and village staff be incorporated in the above noted draft manual. Next slide, please. Council needs to be aware of the comments in both the 2019-2020 reviews of Belcarra annual drinking water report. Water operators that we have can only spill water to react to any low chlorine reading. Increasing the cost of potable water make the spilling of water a questionable procedure vis-a-vis cost benefit. Council needs to investigate the options for chlorination at the Tatlow Reservoir in accordance with the Fraser Health recommendation. Next slide, please. Drawings for this water system have been located. The Water Committee recommends that these be gathered and referenced as part of the Belcarra Water System Operation and Maintenance Manual. Next slide. Second set of household water meter readings has been completed by village staff. This will then allow them to be able to calculate domestic water consumption, which is important, knowing this value for monitoring any water system leaks and assessing the future water needs of the municipality when they're preparing the capital asset management plan. Next slide. Tatlow tank is due for an inspection in February next year. This will provide relevant data for estimating the life expectancy of the tank. Next slide. Dutchman Creek tank has been included in these February inspections, and again will provide an estimation of life expectancy of the Dutchman Creek tank. Next slide. Farrier Cove Pond there's 2 water tanks already present at Farrier Cove, although the suitability of these for firefighting is not known due to the lack of maintenance on these 2 tanks. Next slide, please. Contract has been prepared with WSP Engineering. What we're aware of is there includes increased water flow at District and North Van, flow capacity of the under submarine water mains from District and North Van, estimate life expectancy of the Tatlow Reservoir and Dutchman Creek, review and upgrade of current SCADA system, and calibrate the water meter installed on the Belcarra side with the water meter at North Vancouver. And just by way of information, the WSP is the same company that designed and supervised construction of the Belcarra water system. That was the Dayton and Knight, and then it was renamed as Opus Engineering. Number 8 on the list, current and future capital asset requirements, expenditures of water utility will require a replacement schedule to be developed for the system components based on life cycle estimates and preparation of the accompanying 25-year financial management plan for water utility. Next slide. On the prevention, prevention and mitigation activities, we recommend that council consider each of the options to reduce fire risk in the village. Consider the FUS letter to the village dated May 28th. Consider the recommendations provided by the tree committee, and consider the report that was given by Bruce Blackwell to the council, I think last meeting, regarding the updated community wildfire resilience plan. Next slide, please. Again, we're recommending the sprinkler systems are another means of reducing the amount of water used for firefighting in Belcarra. And the Water Committee recommends the village ensure all the homeowners, particularly those building new homes, be advised of firefighting challenges in our village, along with the safety and advantages of in-home sprinkler systems. Next slide, please. The average home size in Belcarra is 3,321 square feet. And there's a range. Oops, now this is good. Okay, larger homes being constructed in Belcarra should be advised due to the size of their structure that our Belcarra's current water supply might not be sufficient to put out their structure fire. The best use of the limited water supply would be to have in-home sprinkler systems installed, especially in the larger homes. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the committee feels council needs to develop an administrative program to update the progress being achieved on each of the 10 items listed, to have written reports from village staff back to council, and staff reports to be prepared within a specific time frame. And the second recommendation is the water committee members request that council decides on the future role of this water committee. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Appreciate that. Councillor Drake, over to you, please.
Yes, first, yeah, thank you through the chair. First, Ian, thank you for managing to compress that so much material into such a compact presentation. As you say, it's a puzzle with many parts related to it. I am particularly interested in the reports that we're going to see from our new engineering firm. I think it's a step in the right direction that we have the firm whose predecessors had been involved in the design and construction at oversight of the construction of our water system. I agree with the points you've raised. I think they're best dealt with in the type of metric that you referred to, where you have a written summary of the recommendations and we periodically report on the status of those. As to the future role of the committee, I expect to bring that back to council at our next meeting. And I think, as you summarize here in this report, and as you mentioned in your letter, much of the actions that have been recommended really are administrative now in nature. And so I think your committee really has done a fantastic job of providing us with guidance and commentary. But ultimately, it's a decision for council as to subsequent steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drake. Councillor Clark, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. So to the chair, I'd like to thank Ian for his great presentation. I mean, I've read quite a few times the technical brief number 2, but having that PowerPoint really helps us. I do have a couple of questions. First question, I guess it will be to Lorna through the mayor, to the chair. When was last time that a tank maintenance was done at Fair Cove? Do we have anybody doing that maintenance or any plans for maintaining those tanks there and ponds?
I'm sorry, your worship, I don't have the answer to that. So I'm not sure Stuart does.
I can answer through the chair.
Go ahead, thanks.
All those tanks, there's a private hydrant, all of that infrastructure is on private property and therefore not within Public Works jurisdiction to work on that.
Oh, wow. That is really good to know. So all these years, I guess we don't know how many years those tanks have been there for or who paid for them to be built. Do we have any of that information? Because this is in private property, then was it the owners that paid for that tank?
I was just going to say through the chair, and usually if there's a kind of a commercial business or any kind of a strata complex that has multi-units, part of the design criteria is to have a hydrant or firefighting equipment. And then that once that stuff has been been built to the satisfaction of the building department, then the maintenance requirements are the owner's responsibility and sometimes enforced by the fire service through fire inspections.
Okay, so because, looking at the pictures, it looks perhaps that's something that YMCA built back in the day. But I do believe that that as a council would be wise of us to explore what can be done to maintain those tanks. Also, just as a point here, Ian suggested that we let whoever's building houses to know of the fire risks here. Perhaps upon people applying for a permit to get their buildings built, perhaps there should be some letter that is sent by the village listing the challenges or just suggesting, hey, it would be a good idea. We're a small community, very limited resources, will be a good idea to go ahead and install some sprinkler system. But it's just something in writing, try to motivate the homeowner. I understand that most of them are doing for new houses, but it will be good to have something in writing upon the building permits if that's something we can do. And yeah, for now, that's all I have. And I'm looking forward to the motions, I believe, that Councillor Drake will put on the table today. I'm not sure how that's going to go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Jim or Sherry Chisholm? Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Jim.
To the mayor council, to my favorite question, Jamie, that I've asked at the last meetings and so forth, when will we get the information on what the maximum flow of the pipeline is to North Vancouver?
I believe our engineers were asked that question, and I believe our engineers are working on that right now.
When would you expect an answer? I know we asked for it about a month ago.
Yeah, so I would go through our chief administrative officer to see if there's a date on that. I understood she was compiling some work and looking to bring a report back when it was ready and available. But let me just pivot to her. She may have a more complete answer.
I'd be curious if we have a deadline on when the report is to come in.
Well, okay.
Yes, Your Worship, I have WSP engineers working on a few items.
Yep.
And I can follow up with them and see when we may anticipate a report, because it would include that question also.
Yeah.
Okay, did we also ask in that report that is there any extra capacity was designed in at the time?
Pardon me?
Was there any extra capacity designed in at the time of this original design?
That would be part of what they will tell us, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope we get this, because it certainly impacts our future discussions with them as to whether we should be asking them for any more water.
Yeah.
Nope. Granted, for
That's
sure.
it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Appreciate your work on the committee, and thank you for your continuing questions. Ian, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to get back to that Fair Cove tanks. I know that they were installed at the time that Larry was the supervisor for the village, and he required them to be built when I think there was a structure being constructed there by one of the camps. But I think more interest to me is that Bruce Blackwell made a comment in his report to council last week about the need for fire water tanks. So it seems to me that, we shouldn't sidestep the issue here. We've got 2 tanks there, but because they're private or whatever, seems to me a conflict between what Blackwell was saying to us or to council and what realities of who owns the tank and who should be maintaining it then. So anyway, just something more for council to try to straighten out.
Yeah, no, I think those are good points, Ian, and he may not have known that initial part about Larry and that it was put in years ago. So that's, I mean, I think that's very helpful information.
Yeah.
Joe? And then we'll go to Bruce. And Carolina, do you have your hand up again or are you holding there? Okay, thank you. No worries. Joe, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm not going to repeat much of what I said at the last meeting, but again, it can't be said more clear and honestly that a wonderful job by Mr. Devlin and his whole committee on this report. Very, very good with an explanation. I'm not going to, I commented on the previous 5 at the last meeting, so I won't go into that. And I'm certainly not going to go into each of my concerns on this particular report, other than to say that all of them would seem to me to carry a pretty hefty price tag. And so this becomes a matter of the chicken and the egg, because previously we heard from Ken Bjornsson from the financial consultant about, you know, the budgetary considerations that we need to be looking at going forward. These are hefty. It could be, we don't know exactly. We don't know the Vancouver, North Vancouver costs. We don't know should the differentiation and meter calibration issue. I'm sure that can be resolved. But the assets and the repair and maintenance and what may be required into the future on water consumption alone, much less the consideration of fire that we need to be dealing with. And they're important. We don't know the future, but so I know it's in your budgetary thing. I wish you well as you determine on the best approach towards your budgetary considerations at the November meeting. But I do think that when I look at the budgetary report, we notice that our reserves are compared to our competitors rather low. But this is because of a huge amortized capital asset here of over $3.54 million over 25 years, I think, which put that to 15 now. This is a huge asset, very important, very significant. So I think some of the questions, when do we get it? When does this arrive? What are the timelines? This one has a certain urgency about it. It had an urgency previously, and the urgency isn't going to go away. So I do caution council to, as expeditiously as you possibly can, to try to address the points made by Mr. Devlin and his committee with chaired and associated with the guidance of the liaison with Bruce Strait, councillor. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you very much for that, Joe. And we have Bruce Strait.
Yeah, first on the issue of resolutions, I don't propose to do any in this meeting. I'll handle it in the next meeting as well as the committee issues, because I would like to consult with the water committee in that process and others. On Joe's comments, he's absolutely correct in that we have known that taking steps to increase our capacity to deal with fires are going to cost dollars, but as you note from the beginning of Ian's report, we don't have a lot of material on which to base estimates of cost yet. So ultimately, council needs to have in front of it a reasonable estimate of what the costs are of various options, and then to assess those against our capacity to pay. And we've been at this process now for a couple of years, but at no point have we been able to put before council a firm estimate of costs and what the alternatives are. I mean, we've had some, but we haven't had a range where we say, yes, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, and have a reasonable level of confidence as to what the cost would be associated with that. So his point is a very good one. I think we are moving ahead, and I think Ian would agree with me, as would his committee, that we are moving ahead now to get some of the information that I guess perhaps naively some of us thought would be available much earlier, but we're in the process of getting that. And final comment on capital assets. Yeah, he's absolutely correct. In terms, you look at our financial situation, it's driven by the fact that we have water, thank goodness. Speaking of firefighting capacity, but you know, we invested in the neighborhood of $9 million. Now there are lots of other bells and whistles attached to that, including rebuilding some roads, but it was about a $9 million investment. And yes, we still carry some of that debt, although it's shrinking regularly. But yeah, that's the big impact on a really small community when you look at our financial information, and why it will be another challenging discussion when we present our financial plans. Thank you. And I'll just wrap by thanking Ian once again. And you're not free yet, Ian, because I will be in touch with you wanting to get your advice on resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drake, and Councillor Clark for a second time. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on one of Councillor Drake's comments. I agree. I think, we're personally, I believe we're in a much better position when it comes to firefighting than we were back when we didn't have any water system. And, and it's easy to come in. I'm just going to be very blunt. It's easy to come and criticize what's good, what's not. But the fact is, I think we need to remind ourselves that we're better off. If this was built to your liking, that's another question. But we're not fighting fires with wells or tanks right now. We have an actual water system that we can drop from, plus a few tanks. So I feel like we're moving in the right direction. And I just hope we can accomplish this before the end of our mandate in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, and we're all looking to do that in terms of mandate for sure. We think it's critically important, as you do. Right now, I would like to ask Lorna if you had any, you've made a couple comments, but are there any comments you would like to add to this?
Yes, Your Worship, I have a couple of
Sure.
items that I would like to update everyone on. And the first one is to do with the asset management plan. So council has approved the hiring of John Winiger from JW Infrastructure Planning to manage the asset management plan for the village. John comes to the village with considerable experience. He was formerly with Urban Systems. And so he had done work for the village before, but he has also completed asset management plans for many municipalities in British Columbia. And so we're really pleased to have John working on that program for us. And the other update I'd like to give council and the public is about the official community plan. And you may have noticed that on the website, we have posted an RFP for companies to bid to manage the official community plan process for us. And today I did provide an extension to November 4th for the deadline for that, as there were a couple of planning companies who wanted to bid and just found the timeline a bit short. And in addition to that, a notice has gone out to the community asking for volunteers to please submit your applications, your letter, whatever you would like to be a volunteer on the official community plan committee. Council has established that it'll be 11 member committee, and the chair and the vice chair will be appointed by the committee members. So please consider applying to sit on the official community plan committee for the village. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lorna, for those updates, and they dovetail well into the financial report where we're seeing aspects of our strategic plan that are being moved forward by this council as a whole. And in addition, key questions around asset management in terms of all our assets, including our water. So really want to thank staff for doing that. I want to thank council. And Lorna, you may have had one thing about Brad. He may have got some certification. You wanted to maybe share that, did you?
Oh, yes. I'm really pleased to advise that Brad has taken a course. Brad Smith, who's our water operator, and he now has received his certification to be a chlorine handler.
Great.
So that's actually just really good news as we work and move forward to reviewing adding a chlorine station in Belcarra.
So Lorna, thank you for you and the work that staff do on that. And it dovetails well with thanking Ian Devlin again for his job chairing and the members of the committee that have done exemplary work to really move this forward. I think that the outcomes will be very, very good for our village, and there's a combined effort of the committee, council and staff working hard and diligently to be able to get answers and move forward in a pragmatic way. So I think it would be appropriate to, we have a motion that the technical brief number 2 dated September 26, 2021, provided by Ian Devlin, Chair of the Water Committee, be received for information. And I'll look to Councillor Drake. I believe you wanted to move that, correct?
And I'll second that.
And Councillor Wilder seconding that. It's on the floor for any discussion that anybody would like to have. Bruce, did you want to say anything, or are we okay?
No, this is just the technicality to ensure we've received the information formally provided. The real content and decision-making is 2 weeks away.
Yep. Good. Well, thank you, everybody, for your participation. And I think we've got Jim and Doug on the call too from the committee. And I don't know if Martin's on, but I want to thank him too and everyone. And so that's on the floor right now for discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
And I see it is unanimous, and thank you to the committee. And we'll move to 7.1, Village of Belcarra Managing Trees, Views and Landscapes Bylaw number 589, 2021. And it is on the table that the Village of Belcarra Managing Trees, Views and Landscapes Bylaw number 589, 2021 be adopted. Lorna, did you have any questions or any comments you would like to make?
Oh, I'm actually really pleased that this bylaw has moved forward to adoption, Your Worship.
Good. Okay, so we'll look for someone to move it. I'm looking at
So
Councillor
moved.
Clark, if I could. Thank you, Councillor Clark, and I'm looking for a seconder, please.
Second for discussion.
Councillor Drake for discussion. It's on the floor, and Councillor Clark, would you like to lead off?
No, I see that Bruce Drake's amendment, it's highlighted here. I'm good with it. So yeah, no comments for now. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce, do you want to?
Yeah, only I'm very pleased to see it's progressed to this point, and I'm pleased that we took the time to walk through it carefully. And as with other committee work, really pleased with the work that was done by this committee. They did an enormous amount of research, and I think we're much further ahead for the effort that's been made here. I did want to raise one item, which I will bring up later. In some discussions I've had with residents, I was surprised that there wasn't unanimous comfort with the idea that we would allow staff to make exceptions on the requirement to get certain studies done if you were doing very minor work in some cases. And I say surprised because I was the advocate of that and pressed for it. And indeed, we have incorporated it. So it's a topic I want to give some thought to, and I will come back later. It really has to do with issues where we allow discretion in terms of application. And I've always been a fan of that because I believe you cannot write any rule or process such that it covers every case. And in some cases, yes, there may be differences of opinion as to when it should, an exception should be made, but I think the potential should be there. And it's just a matter of ensuring that we do that in a way that people are comfortable that it's fair and equitable. And you can't ever achieve that, but you should be striving for it at all times. And so I just wanted to flag it. It's not going to affect my vote on this. I'm very happy with what we have in front of us. Thank you.
Okay. And you're basically reserving that at some point down the line, you may come back to
on the general question of the provision for discretion to be exercised, and I say it, as I say, as a very strong advocate of including that in our bylaws. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else on council? Anybody else Lisa, did you want to speak or?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm
Okay.
very pleased that this has gone this far.
Yeah, no, very good work. I'm looking to see if there's anybody in the audience right now that wants to speak. And I'm not seeing anybody, so I will come back to council. And it's a motion's on the floor and it is appropriate and it's for that be adopted. So seeing no further discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'll note that it's unanimous. So thank you everyone for their work on that, and Councillor Clark for your work as a lead on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
7.2, we have an amendment, and Lorna, did you want to speak to this at all?
I don't think so, Your Worship, unless someone has questions.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's get it moved in seconder. So we have, I'll go to you, Councillor Drake, were you up to move it or were you up to speak?
No, I was up because I failed to come down.
Okay,
I
well,
was just gonna say that. I was
okay,
up from
then
the
I
previous
will
one.
move. Councillor Clark, thank you for your patience. I will get you to move it because you,
Yeah, so moved.
yeah, and I'll look for a seconder.
I'll
Councillor
second that.
Snell. Oh, I'm gonna go with Councillor Snell just by a hairbreadth there. So it's now on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none. Anybody from the audience? I'm just checking. I'm not seeing anybody. So I'm gonna return to council and it's on the floor. Any further discussion? I'm not seeing any from council. I'll look to call the question, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the ayes carry it and in the affirmative. Okay. So correspondence and proclamations, we have that correspondent items 8.1 to 8.4 be received, please.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Councillor Wilder moving, Councillor Clark seconding it. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And those items are therefore. Anybody want to speak to any of those? I will, if I could, and not for action, but just, I want to draw your attention to 8.4. And maybe, because Lorna did a lot of work on this, we worked on it together, both myself and her and council. But Lorna, did you want to just talk about what the port's doing? You had updated us before on 8.4.
Yes, Your Worship. I think we're all very pleased that the port has agreed to, well, they have an application from one department to the other, I guess.
Yes.
And that is to install a speed buoy on Lower Indian Arm. So that's something that the village had asked for quite a while ago. And so we're pleased to see that hopefully is moving forward as requested by the village.
Okay, and appreciate that, Lorna. And we're on to new business. Oh, Councillor Wilder. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. This actually was something I wanted to speak to. I was
good.
trying to, sorry. I was trying to figure out on the map, and through the chair, maybe to Lorna, when you're talking about these buoys, does this affect somehow in Bedwell Bay, the charted territory for the water ski club?
No, I wouldn't know that. I'm sorry.
So
What do
I was
we-
having difficulties trying to figure out exactly where the no wash or no wake, no wash area was, because the water ski club has been charted since 1964 in Bedwell Bay, long before we were ever incorporated as a municipality. And I'm sure they would have had some kind of correspondence or communications with the port anyways regarding this, but they need to be part of this. They are playing character here.
Sure. Well, the as I understand the Lorna, but you correct me, the village is certainly able to pass on some feedback to the port, correct?
For sure, yes.
And so if Councillor Wilder, you could now, or maybe tomorrow, let us know who an appropriate person with the water ski club, we would be pleased to do that.
I can tell you someone right now.
Okay.
He's online. That would be
that's
Doug Brain.
Perfect.
He's already been in communications with the port, but I don't know if he knows about this or if
Okay.
he's paid much attention to it or not, because this just came up. I'm gonna take my hand down here, but that would be someone to contact, and then he could, if it's not himself, it could be, oh, Doug's, there he is. Hi, Doug.
Hi.
If it's not himself, it would be someone else that he could refer that's in their club. I just, yeah, you know, we have to. Anyways, Doug, over to you. I'm done. Thank you very much for listening to me.
No, I'm okay to speak.
Go ahead, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as I know, this has no impact on Bedwell Bay. But I would have to follow up and confirm that. I know it from my reading of it, it's from Jug Island across the Deep Cove and then up from there. So I don't think it has any impact on the bay, except in the 5 mile zone down at the end. Now, I would have to confirm that, but that's my, so far, that's the way I see it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was brought to the attention of the water ski club as well.
Yeah, and we can, Lorna, we could send a copy of this over to Doug tomorrow.
Sure.
And my understanding is that on that, the 5 knot sign, they're not looking to do that now. They may be looking to do it later. And my understanding what they're doing is to just improve the sign, but they see it as viable right now. So they're doing these other ones as being more high priority. Okay. But thank you, Lisa. I think it's always good to double check and ensure we can get good feedback to the port. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right. So on to new business. Not seeing any new business. We will go to the public question period. And we will just, we have, and I'm going to get maybe Lorna to just do the time check on this. I believe we have 20 minutes and 2 minutes for each question. And we need people to, as the majority of people do on this one, there was a new procedural bylaw put in. So people need to, I'll just review it. They need to make sure that they are having their full name and video of the person asking a question must be visible. So in the cases where that's not, we'll leave that person to come back another meeting. A maximum of 2 minutes be allowed for each question and a maximum of 20 minutes be allowed for public question period. And there's some discretion for the mayor to look at certain things in terms of in accordance with the charter. So I have Rob Begg. You want to go ahead, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Ross.
Yep.
Rob Begg, 3424 Marine Avenue. I would like council to consider, in view of the fact that the private use in regards to the docks have council approval as a requirement, and council has now proposed a square footage charge for new docks. I might suggest that council look into the private use of public property in the village. There's a tremendous revenue stream, I think, if we take a look, and all private use of public property in the village should be considered along with simply the square footage fees associated with the new dock with a touch point of 6 feet by 6 feet. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Lorna, did you pick up the salient parts of that?
Yes, I did, your worship.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So right now, I'm not seeing any more questioners that have met the requirements to speak. So Ishmael, if you could, I don't know if you're able to get your picture up on the screen, but you need the video up to be able to speak, so. Okay. Thanks, Ishmael. So I'm just gonna preface this by saying that I will, we'll look to proceed on this, but we have a number of things that that could potentially preclude that. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. I am happy to see you declaring your conflict of interest with respect to dock applications on Bedwell Bay, but I have two questions. Question one, I want to know why Councillor Snell failed to declare his conflict of interest with respect to my application to reinstate my access to the existing stone wall platform fronting my property, which I was using on regular basis, considering.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there and I'm going to get some advice from our Chief Administrative Officer. The challenge on this, and I put it out there, is that we have 3 members of council on this issue have consistent with the community charter and their belief that they have a conflict, have declared that. So at this point, with this line of questioning, I'm going to be recusing myself if it carries on. Doesn't mean it's not a good line of questioning. It just means that the conflict that I have, I need to be able to act on it. And that is to, when it comes up, to be able to move myself out of that meeting. So I don't know how we're going to do this, Ishmael. My sense is if I recuse myself, I don't know what the other 2 people will do, but I'm worried that not that you don't have the right to pursue this, but you have 3 people who have indicated and 1 who's indicating it right now. So Lorna, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, your worship, the one thing I would say that under the community charter,
Yep.
each council member is up to them to decide on a
Yep.
conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And no one should be challenging that. That is their decision and that stands.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So
Might I comment, Your Worship?
yes, go ahead.
It's Bruce. Unfortunately, I've lost, for some reason, I've lost the audio. So I'm actually having to hold my iPhone, which I use, up to my ear. So there'll be no video from me, but I can hear the conversation. It seems to me that it's very likely if we do get this topic pursued, you're going to end up without a quorum and finish the meeting quite quickly. We do have a process, and I'll direct this through you to Lorna. Are we not in a process which we anticipate will provide us with a quorum ultimately on this question, courtesy of direction from the Supreme Court? Is that correct, Lorna?
That is correct. Through your worship to Councillor Drake. We have applied to our legal counsel, who is following up on the community charter, and to go to the Supreme Court and to determine how we will proceed with this topic.
So I would simply say that once that is completed, we will no longer be in a position. We will likely be given direction and dispensation such that there no longer will be a risk that we'll lose quorum every time someone wants to discuss this matter with this council, at which point this question is much more easily dealt with because you're not going to shut the meeting down by losing quorum. Again, taking Lorna's point, it's not a guarantee that people will feel themselves in conflict, but it's quite likely.
And that was my comments at the beginning, were that I was concerned that what may happen would then end up potentially with one or more people declaring a conflict. So
Yeah.
I think, Bruce, your question about the effort with the Supreme Court. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to move, I'm going to move off this question, and I'm going to go to, so Councillor Clark and Councillor Wilder, did you have a comment to make? Councillor Clark?
Yes, I do. I would like us, in order to not finish the meeting just like we did in the last two times, if it would be possible for me to ask all the residents to please sit tight. We all want to get this done. We all want to talk about it. But right now we're in a very tricky position. If we start answering questions, we're going to lose quorum, and the meeting is going to be ended before other residents have a chance to ask other questions about other subjects. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilder, thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Wilder, did you have a comment?
I did. Thank you very much. First one is that I was going to suggest to the chair that possibly you would ask that the resident, Mr. Shulistani, withdraw his question so that we could continue. Secondly, I don't think we can speak to Mr. Shulistani anymore because he's taken his video off.
Yeah.
And if he wants to
So-
continue, then I will be declaring conflict as well.
Yeah. So appreciate that. I was trying to let Mr. Shulistani, but Ishmael. Okay, so the piece is, I think you've heard that, and you heard me foreshadow it, but it is now enunciated, that if you decide to go with this line of questioning, that you have two people and maybe three, but I can't speak for anybody else, who've indicated that they will declare a conflict. And if there's three, the meeting's over. So what was put out to you is with the Supreme Court, there will be a time that there will be a full council able to respond on this issue. So what would you like to do, Ishmael, please?
Yes, I do.
Sorry?
Yes. My second question is, did the council consider their conflict of interest when they remove?
Okay, I'm gonna
my
put you on mute, and I'm gonna put you on mute, please. And I am going to lead off, and I'm only speaking for myself. We tried to do that, but I will declare that I have already declared a conflict, and I will do it again today based on your line of questions. So I'm not entitled to participate in the discussion of this matter or to vote on it because I have a direct pecuniary interest in the matter as a director, and because I am a member of a group wharf association that is the subject of legal action. So at this point, I will leave the meeting. I will hand the chair over to the Deputy Mayor, John Snell. I will ask Paul Richardson to move me out of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Snell, Mayor Ross has left the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess we have to find out if there are any other questions from the gallery that relate to issues that don't pertain to a subject that might see other councillors decide to declare a conflict of interest and leave the meeting and close it down. I do see Joe Elworthy with his hand. So Joe, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, you may like to ask Councillor Wilder for her comment first.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you. Sorry about that. Councillor Wilder.
Following Mr. Ishmael Shulistani's comments, he decided not to withdraw his comment, so I'm declaring a conflict of interest and recuse myself from any discussion due to a direct or indirect pecuniary interest, as I'm a member and director of a group wharf association. He did not withdraw his comments, so I cannot continue the discussion.
Thank you. We will remove you from the meeting also.
I'd like to get my question in before everybody leaves.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So Councillor Snell, now it's up to you.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just- that question is still out there.
Yes, out of respect to Joe Elworthy and other villagers that might have some questions other than on anything that could end up with me leaving the room. Joe, would you like to proceed with
So
your
you only
question?
have respect for certain people? So you have only respect for certain
Sorry,
people?
Councillor Snell.
Am I on, Councillor Snell?
Yes, you're on.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, I was becoming somewhat concerned that it's just an information question, and I certainly wish that that the other two, the mayor and Councillor Wilder were here, but it's not that issue. It can be relayed to them, and of course, it's I certainly just wanted to get. It's not on Wharfish, okay, but it's a budgetary question that maybe somebody can help me with at some point. And my concern would be the whole issue of Wharfish, and it's not on that issue. So please don't leave the room on that one. It's a budgetary issue. Do we?
Mr. Elworthy, the budget will be brought back at the next council meeting for full discussion. So if you would like to save your question, it's up to you, but there will be a full public discussion at the next meeting on the budget.
Yeah, thanks, Lorna. And so then I just give it quickly, and it's just a statement and not a question, if you will, then, and that is that as we deal with those issues, that this is a significant cost issue that we need to make sure we have resolved, I think, as we go forward. So I just ask Council to be cognizant of that, and the sooner we can get to the end of this question, the better. But thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that, Joe. Okay.
As a point of information, I
I
think you
see,
have highlighted.
I see
I think this is a violation of discrimination.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear me? I said you have discriminated against.
Point
certain
of order,
people.
please. Point of order. Lorna, can you please through the
Sorry, Carolina, you got muted by mistake.
Okay,
And
sorry.
Paula is working on it. It takes a
Thank you. If this continues, I'm leaving the meeting too. I'm done with that. Thank you.
Okay, so where is
Okay, am I off mute? Okay. Okay, we have, I'm not sure if I'm muted or not.
No, you're clear, John. It's
clear.
Bruce. I can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. I see one question from Robert Begg. So Robert, would you like to ask your question?
Don't know if am I
Yeah, you're
muted
good.
now or am I on?
You're on.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Snell. It's just actually a clarification of a point of order. And that is, I believe it was, I don't know if it was October 12th meeting, but when the conflicts were declared, the meeting was immediately terminated for lack of a quorum. But there were 2 items left on the agenda as it was published. So I guess theoretically, the mayor and councillors that were conflicted could have come back and finished off those 2 listed agenda items and would not have been conflicted. At that point, they were conflicted on, I think it was item 5.3. It was then moved to 9.1, I believe it was, but there was still 10 and 10.1 on the agenda as they were listed. So just as a point of order, so we, or clarification, I guess you could say, moving forward, that if this happens again, would the agenda items be finished that were afterwards? I suppose that it could have been moved to 10.2, I guess, and then it would have been the last item and it could have been then terminated the meeting. But the people in the waiting room could have come back and formed a quorum for the last two items. So I don't know whether this is going to be the same situation tonight, but just so we know in the future how that'll work. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I would refer that to our CAO for an answer.
Yes, when we lose quorum, the meeting is terminated and the meeting isn't adjourned. And so at that point in that meeting, it was terminated and the meeting was over.
Might I comment through the chair?
By all means.
Yeah, it just to Rob's point. I agree with the information we've been provided by our CAO, but it's interesting that if I'm not mistaken, there are different interpretations of that, Rob, which may explain why you've seen versions in which you can lose quorum for a particular question and then come back. But hopefully it's a purely hypothetical problem. I mean, we have a technical problem here of not having a quorum on a certain topic. And hopefully we'll get that settled, and then we will have a quorum and be able to move forward on these things. So hopefully it won't be a dramatic or long-standing problem for us. And we'll be able to deal with the topics, the questions that need to be settled, and respond to questions. It just can't be done now, and we have to be very careful. And that's exactly why we did move that topic in the agenda, perhaps not as far back as we should have. But it got us through the vast bulk of the meeting before we lost quorum.
Yeah, that was my point. My point was that you did move it for that reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just a point of clarification, just so we know going forward. Thank you for your explanations.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Drake, for that question. Carolina, Councillor Clark, you have a question.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it wasn't a question. It was more like to Rob's Bag's point. We did do new business that day, Rob. We did do the new business. But it is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it is my understanding that the last item for the agendas should always be public question, period. But just as a confirmation, we did do the new business. If you look back at the minutes, you'll see that there is even an item there. And yeah, so through the chair to Lorna, according to I don't have in front of me, but our procedure by law would be the one dictating this. Can we move items to after public question period? My understanding is that we could not. So could you please clarify?
Well, I believe council could move anything to where they want on the agenda as long as all council members agree with it.
Okay, so we could have moved to the end of the public question period. I didn't think we could. So yeah, that's good to know. All right, thank you. But yeah, new business was done. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Clark, for that. Seeing no further hands raised for any questions, I would presumably, we can probably close the meeting now. I'll take guidance on that from our CAO. Or are we able to call Mayor Ross in to call for an adjournment?
You can go ahead and do that.
Okay, well, the next item on the agenda is item 11, which would be an adjournment. So I would ask for someone, okay, I have Councillor Clark with the motion. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
And Councillor Drake also seconded that. So I ask again, all in favour?
Aye.
Aye, and that is unanimous with the exception of one. So at 9:50, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.